Are we doing today? Today is Tuesday, another fantastic day for coding. Who do we have here? We've got some people hopping on Instagram. We got Mando28, Chris Kosi, Kier Vengoud. Hello, Sagara Kurana. Killian, what's going on? Merrick, something. Everybody, what's going on? And then we've got some peeps over here on TikTok. We've got Space Kid, something. Oh, the names are always going so fast on TikTok. I can't keep up with it. And then we got some peeps over here on YouTube. How's it going? Robbie, welcome. Stoked to have you here. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason. I'm a full stack developer here at DevSlopes. So I primarily work on or in the MERN stack, Mongo, Express, React, and Node. And then, code a lot of cool stuff. And then DevSlopes as a company, we're a learn to code company. So I have the privilege of being the Web Academy instructor, mentor, coach. And so I have the pleasure of working with students every day, helping them learn how to code and then how to take those skills that they've worked so hard for and reap the benefits from them and make some money. So whether that's freelancing or getting a job, I am with them every step of the way, A to Z, right? My job's not done until my students make money, all right? Because we've got to reap the, reward from things that we put hard work into. So that's a little bit about me. Stoked to have everybody here. So I get asked a lot of questions about, where to start as a beginner developer. What kind of technologies or programming languages should I be learning? How do I know when I'm ready to get a job or do freelance work, things like that. So if you have questions like that, be sure to leave those in the comments below. And to kick this off, we're going to start a little bit about discussing the difference between front-end development and then back-end development. And if you have questions while we chat about those, then go ahead and again, drop some comments below. So a little bit about front-end development, okay? Front-end development is everything that a user sees and interacts with. So when you're on your iPhone or your Android phone or a website and you're clicking all those fancy buttons and interacting with the page, that is the front end. All right, and there's a few popular front-end technologies. So we've got things like HTML, CSS, we've got JavaScript, you've got UI libraries like React and Vue, you've got Angular, TypeScript, Elm, jQuery, Swift, for iPhone development. Mobile, let's see, cross-platform, we've got React Native and Flutter. All right, so these are all front-end technologies that you can use to build the client-side facing part of your app or your website. Okay, and then we've got back-end development, and this is really where all the magic happens. Okay, so when you're on social media and you're making posts, liking things, commenting, subscribing, and whatnot, okay, all of that action is being done over an API that talks to a server and manages all that data. So right now, we've got Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Everybody has a user account, okay? That account is stored in a database that belongs to whatever platform you're on, all right? And then with that, everything that you like, you look at, you search for, thumbs up and whatnot, all of that is stored to your profile. So like for an example, when you log on to Instagram and you're scrolling through your feed, you have stored all the different, people that you follow to your account inside of a database. When you like something or comment on something, that is recorded on your account in a database to say, hey, this person has liked X, Y, and Z, and things of that nature. So we interact with APIs every single day in everything that we do, the way we connect our devices to each other, communicate, make reservations, book a flight, all done over an API that, is talking to some server or database and then delivering information back to us. So really cool stuff about how all that works. I started out as a front-end developer. So I do, web development, and started out as a front-end developer. And it was really cool because with web development, it was actually a smooth transition into the back end because I chose a backend like Node, which allows you to write JavaScript on the server. So I didn't need to learn any new programming language or anything like that. So a few of the popular backend programming languages is we've got things like Node. You can do Python. There's Java, Ruby on Rails. There's PHP you can use for the backend, and some of those you can even use on the front end as well. It just kind of pick and choose what you want. And so when we're choosing these technologies, a couple of things we want to consider is the scalability of it and how easy does it integrate with the product or software that we're building. All right. So what I'm going to do now is, if you have questions about code, freelancing, jobs, tech, go ahead and drop those in the comments below. I'm going to start over here with YouTube, since lately I feel like YouTube has been getting less attention. I'm so sorry, guys and gals. Let's go ahead and dive into this. All right. What do we have? Destro, do you think Dana will overtake Node and become the primary technology for JS runtime? You know what, Destro, I don't even know what Dano is. Like, I mean, I've been coding for like 6 years. I don't know everything. I do know a lot, but I primarily work in the MERN stack. So sometimes I don't venture as much out as I should to check out some of these other software. So Dano is a runtime for JavaScript and TypeScript. Oh, TypeScript even. Okay. It's based on the V8 JavaScript engine. And let's see, Ryan Dowd, the original creator of Node. Okay, so that's interesting. So, I mean, it looks like that came out in 2018. So I don't know if overtake Node is the right word. So there are lots of companies that use Node. It's one of the most scalable backends that you can use, and it's super awesome to work with. And Node has been around for a while. So for companies to start adopting Dino, it might take a little bit of time. But for an example, I was a full stack developer at Dell Computers, and the product that we were building, I was working with Node. So we use that for our backend. But I'm going to look more into that. That's cool. I mean, it really looks like it's very similar to the same thing as Node, because they both use the V8 JavaScript engine, which is super cool. Radoshefa, let's see. Could you give me a name of a good teacher that I can study from him? Yes, I would love to. His name is Jason. I'm right here. And at the DevSlopes Academy, I help students every single day. So go to devslopes.com/apply and, you know, check out our academies. I'd be stoked to work with you personally and help you land work and make money and all that stuff. So one of the things that I like so much about teaching is I'm a self-taught developer myself, and I've done it on my own, and it sucks. So one of the things that I take a primary focus on is when I'm teaching, I really step back and understand from a beginner perspective. All right. I feel like a lot of tutorials out there, because I experienced the same thing when I was learning. There's almost like a prerequisite or expectation that you should already know something about development. But when you're a beginner, you don't. And so a lot of these instructors, I think subconsciously, they think or expect you to know some type of baseline when you're just starting out and you don't know anything. So when I teach and work with my students, I make sure I'm starting from ground zero and taking incremental steps with them to understand how to code. So DevSlopes, obviously me, be stoked to work with you. Some other popular names, let's see. YouTube, there's Brad Traversy. He's really good at teaching. Man, I haven't done YouTube tutorials in a long time. There's a couple others. I just can't think of their names off the top of my head. Let's see, which language do you do for front end? So I use React. Okay, React is a UI library for DOM manipulation. And so I primarily work in React, and that uses JavaScript or TypeScript under the hood. I'm a huge fan of TypeScript, so that's what I use under the hood for it. So, I mean, and it also depends what you want to do with programming. So if you want to do web development, then you're going to start out with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then I recommend React. If you want to do front end for iPhone apps, then you're going to learn Swift. And if you want to do front end for Android apps, you're going to learn Kotlin. Let's see. Mady, what's up, Jason? What's going on, man? Seems like the popular transition is front end to back end. You hardly see it the other way around. Yes, that's absolutely right. It's always front end into back end. And here's why. All right. Companies don't really want to hire a junior backend developer, all right? Because you're messing with their APIs, their databases. It's too easy to corrupt and mess up user data, all right? What they want you to do is start out with the front end, get familiar with working with the APIs and the endpoints and managing the backend, understanding the architecture, and then on the job, you can make that transition into backend and usually mentor with somebody. All right. So when I first got hired at Dell Computers, I was hired as a front-end developer. But while I was there, they needed some help doing the back end. And they knew that I was super open and pumped and amped to learn new things. So they came to me and they're like, hey, Jason, are you interested in learning back end? We need some help with it. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. So I mentored with the senior back end developer, and he taught me everything there is to know about backend development, the architecture, the different patterns and structures. And it was amazing. And so I left Dell Computers as a full stack engineer. Really awesome. Good stuff. Let's see. Midi, Jason, I currently study design. Do you think knowing and having a design degree will add some value for a front-end role? Yes, I do. Now, not specifically a design degree. If you have one, that's fantastic. But here's one of the cool things about understanding stuff about design and UI. As a front-end developer, it is your job to look at a mock-up or a design and translate that into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. So yes, having experience with design, UI, UX, everything like that is going to help you build better architectures for your apps, websites, or web apps or whatnot. So, I mean, I have a brief, a small amount of experience in UI, UX. Before I got into programming, I was a UI, UX designer for an app development game company. And so I did all the wireframes, UI, UX experience, and all that fun stuff. Now, I don't have a degree in that. That was all self-taught. But still, I built some pretty cool things. And it's helped a lot as a front-end developer. Let's see. Abrim. Man, I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize. You're asking what are APIs? So APIs it's what connects us to each other. So right now, this stream is happening over an API, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. All right. So they've got an API where information can get from here to there and vice versa. All right. An API stands for the Application Programming Interface. To put in the simplest terms, you can think of an API like a messenger who takes a request and then takes it to the system, tells it what to do with it, and then takes that response and brings it back to a user. All right. To put it in maybe a familiar example, say that you're at a restaurant. All right. And somehow what you order from that menu has to end up getting to the kitchen prepared and then coming back to your table, right? So the missing link here is the waiter or the waitress. Okay, so we can think of them as the messenger that takes your request, delivers it to the kitchen and says, hey, this person wants XYZ. They get the food at plate and then bring it back to your table. All right, so that's kind of the gist of an API and how it works. Let's see. And one more thing, should I learn some Python and Flask in order to comprehend React well in the future? No, absolutely not. Python and Flask are completely different than React. Those are all different programming languages. They all have their own, purpose. So it's not going to help you comprehend React. So one thing to consider is each programming language solves a particular problem in a useful way. All right. So you have to decide as a developer first, what kind of apps or software do you want to build and work on? And then that's going to determine the programming language that you learn. All right. So for an example, if you want to do web development, you're going to do HTML, CSS, JavaScript. and React. Granted, you can use Python, for an example, for web development. But as far as the industry goes, like opportunities as far as job and freelance work, there is more opportunity with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript versus Python alone. All right. So, and the cool thing is with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, if you want to write your backend, then you can do it in JavaScript still. You just using Node. All right. You don't have to go and learn a new programming language like Python to build the backend in. Let's see. How do you decide what stack to build with? Do they all do the same thing, or is it a matter of preference? It depends on the requirements. And I know that's kind of a tricky question. So when you're doing web development, more or less, you can kind of choose the technology stack that you want to use. Primarily, like me, my go-to is the MERN stack, Mongo, Express, React, and Node. So if somebody needs a web app or websites, I use React. Okay. I can also use Angular. I've done the mean stack before, substituting React with Angular. It just really depends. But those are the two technologies that I'm very, very proficient in. So that's why I wouldn't choose PHP or Python or Ruby on Rails, because I haven't really taken time to learn those. And it just is kind of irrelevant to know so many different types of programming languages. It's like overwhelming. By all means, if you want to learn other languages, do it, but become very proficient in one first before you start diving out and venturing into, new territory. All right, I'm going to answer one or two more questions from YouTube. Then we're going to get to TikTok and then Instagram. All right, what are your thoughts on Vue.js versus React? I'm comfortable with Vue. Okay, so both of them fantastic libraries for the UI, for DOM manipulations. Both very lightweight, both fast, both have a really clean syntax. Okay, here's where the real difference happens. All right, if you are looking to get a job, you want to learn React. And the reason is React has been widely adopted amongst companies. Okay, Vue hasn't yet. Vue is fantastic for freelance work. If you are joining a small startup company, they might be using Vue. All right, but if you're looking to land a job, okay, then you want to go with React because the industry has adopted it. Let's see, what is the optimal stack to connect an SQL database to front end? I read something about LAMP versus LAP. I don't know. I don't know a lot. I've worked very, very, very little with SQL, and I just haven't taken the time to learn LAMP or LAP. Is it possible to work as a front-end developer without knowing a framework beforehand? Yes, absolutely. So knowing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that's enough to do front-end work. That's all it takes. Let's see, micro K8s versus mini cube. What would you prefer using? I have no idea. I've never used them. Never even heard of them. So thank you for introducing something new to me. I'll go check them out. Which has more job opportunities, front end or back end? Well, the easiest thing is, there's loads of front end developer positions and loads of back end developer positions. The easiest thing is to get into front end and move into the back end and become a full stack developer. Then you have any opportunity you want when you're a full stack developer. Okay, TikTok. Let's get over here. Let's see. Someone asked, hey, wanted to know if you ever worked two jobs at the same time. I have. So regarding programming, I've had a programming job, and then I also did freelancing on the side. It's cool to make the extra buck, doing freelance work on the side, but it isn't, to me, I just decided it wasn't worth it. Like all my time was consumed with coding, and it left zero time to spend with my family. All right. So I stopped doing that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick one or the other. I'm going to stick with it and roll with it. All right. How long do you think it would take to become full stack? I would say about a year to be a proficient full stack developer. You need to keep in mind that programming is a journey. It's not a quick fix thing. It's not something you're going to master or become very proficient in in like 3 to 4 months. Okay. It takes time. You are learning a brand new language. You are learning to write in an entirely new syntax and way. And you're learning to solve problems in a way that is completely unique to programming. Okay. That the rest of the world isn't doing. All right. So a year, I would say, become a proficient as a full stack. Let's see. Lovely something. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm just going to call you Love. All right. Hey, I have a question. Should I learn C or C++ before starting Kotlin? You should learn none before learning Kotlin. Those are two entirely different programming languages and have an entirely different purpose than what Kotlin does. Kotlin is the go-to programming language for Android development. Sure, you can do cross-platform with like C, but here's the reality. C++ is used when you need something that has to be insanely high performant. Okay. So for an example, if you're building rovers or robots for NASA to go to Mars, okay, C++. If you're building AAA games like Call of Duty or World of Warcraft, where the game needs to be able to make split-second decisions on the fly and be insanely fast for that, then yes, the C++ is a great choice. But if you're just building a simple Android app, C++ is complete overkill. First off, it's one of the steepest learning curves that you could dive into. All right. And it's 10 times the work to build an Android app with C++ versus just using Kotlin. All right. So what you need to do is decide what you want to do with programming. And it sounds like maybe you want to do Kotlin or Android because you're mentioning Kotlin here. So just learn Kotlin. And don't worry about C or C++. That's crazy overkill. And you'll stress yourself out. I mean, unless you want to build robots and AAA games and work on embedded systems, by all means, venture down learning like C++ and C, okay? But if you're doing Android apps, learn Kotlin. Let's see, I understand all the algorithms and data structures, but my problem is that I cannot write them down. All right, so that's great that you understand them. The next step that you need to do is you need to apply that to real world projects. So you should Google some good beginner projects for whatever stack that you're doing and start building things from scratch. Stop following tutorials and use data structures and algorithms, how they would be used in a real world project. That's going to help you remember and understand how to write them. Let's see. I have 0 level coding and would like to learn it. Give me advice. Where can I start? All right. Lego Forso. So here's where you start. First step, decide what kind of software, apps, or programs you want to build with programming. That will determine what kind of technology stack you want to learn. Once you've figured that out, whether it's like web development, iPhone development, or Android development, for a simple example, then I would start with something free. All right. Test out YouTube, test out other websites that have some free learning, because you want to decide and make the decision if you even like programming. Okay. It's one thing to think about coding and building apps or software, or whatever, and that might sound cool. But then when you actually get down into the trenches to do it, you might be like, whoa, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is way stressful. So try free resources like Udemy or YouTube. There might be some free content on Udemy. If you're completely 100% serious about making a life change and you want some mentorship, coaching, accountability, and to work with somebody like me, then go to devslopes.com/apply. All right. We've got the DevSlopes Academy for iOS, Android, and web development, and would be stoked to work with you. And we go as far as helping you land freelance work and getting a job. Okay. We don't just teach you, we teach you how to also use those skills in the practical real world, so very cool stuff. I have a networking background and want to start programming. Would it be helpful? Yeah, having a networking background would be helpful. Any type of like engineering type of background is always helpful when you're learning to code. It's not required, but it is helpful. Let's see, which is easier, business management or computer science? I don't know. I've never looked into either. I would say computer science takes more brains, so maybe that one's a little harder. Unknown. Hey, why are you ignoring my question? I don't know what your question is. Did I answer it already? I was talking to YouTube. I apologize for your impatience. You know what? You haven't even asked anything, so I'm not even. Oh, there's your question. I found it. I apologize. Okay. Oh, wait. I just answered that. Anyways, let's move on. Would you recommend learning assembly code if that's the type of coding you want to do? Assembly code is like so low level, like I would have zero interest in my entire life to ever use it because there are so many higher up, more surface level programming languages that are much easier to learn, that are way more practical, and that I could get a job and making money with way faster. And there's also a higher demand for, loads of other programming languages than assembly. I mean, it's cool to do. I mean, pat yourself on the shoulder, like kudos. But if you're looking for opportunity and to make money, no, don't waste your time learning assembly. Let's see. Hey, Sally D91 is starting the App Academy. That's awesome. Stoked to have you a part of it. All right, how much time do we have? Holy cow, 4 minutes. Instagram, you've been so dang patient. Let's take some questions over here. What's going on, Instagram family? Stoked to have you here. Let's see, how long do you think it would take to become full stack? A year. A year to be a full stack developer. I'm a front end developer. That's super awesome. Front end development is great. What else do we have? Smell Loud Knee 3. Can you explain how to learn the best language for a beginner? The best language for a beginner starts with what you want to do with software, with coding. All right. And that's going to be the best language for you to learn as a beginner. Also, on the flip side of that, there are other programming languages that are easier for beginners than, not. So if you're looking into web development or like AI machine learning, Python is a fantastic beginner language, has a really clean syntax to it, has a very broad general purpose. And then there's also just straight up web development. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, something like React. If you're doing iPhone apps, Swift is a fantastic programming language for beginners. And then Kotlin for Android apps is also fantastic for beginners. But again, you need to choose what it is you want to do with programming first to decide what you should learn. Java or database, what is the best to learn? This just circles back to what I always say. Learn the programming language that lines up with what you want to build as a developer. Okay. Now you can use Java for backend development. And then there's databases. So the backend language and databases pretty much go hand in hand when you're learning backend. So for an example, if I was to use Node for the backend language to write all my code on the server, I would use something like MongoDB. I could also use like Postgres or, other things. It just depends on what you want to do. All right. Your view on Golang for web development. I've briefly looked into Golang, okay, just briefly. So I know little about it, but there are other easier programming languages for web development than Golang, in just my opinion. But, that might change if I learn more about Golang. But from the brief research that I've done on it, I would never choose Golang for web development. Why? Because I'm already a MERN stack developer and I don't need to go learn something new for web when I've got React and Angular. Let's see. I want to make my carrier in Flutter. Can you guide me? YouTube videos, maybe Udemy course. I wish we taught, Flutter here at the DevSlopes Academy. I'd be stoked for you to come here and me help you learn it, but we don't have that yet. Let's see. Somebody says, thank you. You explained API development well. That's great. How long does it take to learn React? So once you've become proficient in JavaScript, I would say to become proficient with React, probably 2 to 3 months. And then with that being said, you can always learn more and always get better. So for an example, I've been working with React for 5 years. Not kidding. Every single month, I am learning better architectural design patterns. I'm learning, more about React, how to build more scalable apps, how to just write better code with React, how to manage state and re-renders and all of that stuff. You just keep learning. It keeps going on forever. But to be proficient, I would say, 2 to 3 months. Hey, how are you doing? I'm from Pakistan. What's going on? It's Imidali. Stoked to have you here. What's the first best step? The first best step is deciding what kind of software or apps you want to build. And then that determines the programming language you will learn. This is the good advice. Take your time to make wise choices. Hey, thanks, Clem. Appreciate it. Let's see. What else do we have here? We're going to wrap up here in just a little bit. I'm going to take a question from Instagram, TikTok, and then YouTube, and then we're going to wrap all of this up here. Okay, so that's actually all the questions from Instagram, TikTok. How the heck are we doing? Let's see what kind of coding questions we have. Let's see. I've answered that. Where did we leave off here? Okay, we answered that. Where are we? We answered the assembly code question. Okay, I'm going to answer this question. Okay, this is a question that I get all the time. So, yo, S33, you better stick around because this answer's for you. And then YouTube, I'm going to get over there, okay? So, yo, S33 asks, do companies look for university degrees when you're looking for a job? You know what? Here's the honest, straightforward truth. Okay. Companies at the end of the day don't give a rat's butt about your computer science degree. All right. They just don't. And here's why. At the end of the day, all a company or a client wants is somebody who can code. Can you write code or can you not? That's all that matters. I'm a self-taught developer. And right here before DevSlopes, I was working as a full stack engineer for Dell computers. And guess what? On the job listing, it said required computer science degree, required 5 years of JavaScript, and required 3 years in React. Guess what? I'm a self-taught developer, no computer science degree. I had 3 years of JavaScript, not 5, and I had 1 year in React, not 3. Well, I went through the technical interview. I did the coding challenges. They liked it all. They looked at my code. They liked it. They liked my personality and then said, hey, can we offer you a job? And I was like, heck yes, let's do it. All right. So I didn't even meet the requirements on the job listing, but they interviewed me, saw that I was credible and that I could code. And they're like, this guy can fill a need that we have. So no, you don't need a computer science degree. Save your money. Don't go into debt for it, please. If you have a computer science degree, kudos. It's obviously something that doesn't hurt. It's great to have, but by all means, you don't need one to get a job. All right, let's wrap up with one question here from YouTube. I'm going to skip past a lot of these. I apologize. So just come back tomorrow and ask your question. We'll get to it. All right, let's see. Let's see, any web challenges? Want to start JavaScript? Don't know how to start. Okay, I'm going to answer this question from Amine Siam. Okay, so you said that you learned HTML, then CSS, and want to start JavaScript, but you don't know how to start. So JavaScript can kind of be a tricky thing to start. I would, start with some YouTube videos, more, like beginner JavaScript. Start with things like that. There's some websites like W3 Schools is a fantastic resource that puts things in very, very, very simple terms. Okay, and will teach you the basics of JavaScript. Also, I would be stoked to work with you to learn JavaScript. So I'm the DevSlopes Academy web instructor and coach mentor. And so go to devslopes.com/apply if you want to just check out the academy, ask questions about it, see if it's a good fit for you. And then I would love to work with you and help you learn JavaScript and React, and then backend development. And I'll even work with you until you get paid freelancing or until you get a job. All right. So that's where we're going to end here. So thank you, everybody, for joining here. Again, if you would like some one-on-one mentorship and coaching, work with somebody like me to learn how to code and then also help you get paid, then go to devslopes.com/apply. If you are brand new to programming or you already have experience coding and want to take your skills to the next level, DevSlopes has this 30-day code challenge. Super cool. We've got it for JavaScript and for Swift. So you can go to 30daycodechallenge.com and just sign up for the next challenge. It's in a couple of weeks, and I promise you'll love it. Super great stuff. You'll have a coach and a mentor through the whole 30 days. And then you also have live weekly meetups with your coach and your mentor. So amazing stuff. Again, thanks everybody for joining. Until next time, stay safe, stay positive, and keep coding. Adios.